Today on Lulz, we have guest, friend of the show, Petteytheft, joining us. We do need to talk to the selection committee for Brian's Dfs Tout bracket. And who knows, maybe we'll look to the stars and build a showdown lineup tonight.
Does he think? I think he thinks this. He thinks this is a go. Vegas Dave thinks this is a go.
Hot naked girls doing yoga.
What?
Why don't you just win like a man?
Random.org. Type in 1 for yes, 2 for no, and let the DFS gods pick for you.
And I'm absolutely begging you not to dupe us. Please don't dupe us.
Petteytheft, welcome back to the show. It's been a while.
It has been a little while. Unfortunately, this time I didn't win a million maker, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, we kind of been loosening our standards a little bit on that one. I guess once you've won a million maker, then you're kind of, in the rotation, I think is how it works.
I think that's fair. You can't get rid of me then.
The problem is now that we have 300-man trains, winning the millies on a weekly basis, that our pool of guests is really opening up.
That was incredible. I was really hoping he would win. I don't know how far he ended up. Was he second or third? Where did he finish?
I think he finished, like third or fourth. I know a couple teams ended up jumping him at the very end.
And he's a real person. You said you met him, or you talked to him?
No, I thought I saw something on Twitter where he was responding, and then it ended up not being him. I got confused.
That's just awkward then.
Exactly. How has your season been going?
Week 1, I had my worst day ever. Week 2, I had my worst ROI ever. Week 3, I lowered again, did bad again. Week 4, I actually turned it all around and made it all back plus some.
There you go.
Yeah, actually, the only issue was that I lowered my volume every week because I've getting crushed. And unfortunately, I did one lineup in the 4 for 4, the 4K this week because I've been getting my ass kicked. So I had to lower my volume, and my number 2 lineup would have won it.
Oh no.
Yeah, rip.
So normally you would have multiple in that?
Yeah, I think week 1 I maybe had 9 or 10. Week 2 like 5, and last week I had like 3 or 4, and then this recent week I had 1.
You said you do that too, Brian, right? Where you kind of scale up your volume based on what kind of streak you're on?
Yeah. So that's why I'm not playing NFL at all this week. No, I'm kidding.
That's where I was headed.
Yeah, I was like, I've had the exact same season as Petty, except the win it all back week. So, but I totally do that. I think that's good because Pet played cards too, and like there is something to gambling like for a long fucking time, and like you rely on it, and you just the guys who like survive and do it for a long time. I think that just kind of happens naturally. Like something, I'm not saying the way we do it, because I do it the same way Pet, obviously, but like they have some sort of mechanisms they like kind of naturally learned through just gambling so much. That's kind of like an astrology bro take, right? Like there's no science behind it. Like I just feel like that just happens for a lot of guys. I bet we're in the majority. That would be my guess, is guys who gamble a lot, when they're running hot, they kind of push it a little bit more, and when they're running really cold, they dial it back. And like for me, then for poker, I used to like get all the hand histories and a bunch of key hands and then look and see what I did and study that way. And in DFS, I just like, look at my process and go like, okay, what the hell is wrong here? Is there a line in the code or something that's not right? And then do I need to ditch this whole thing? Is the thing I did last time worse than helpful, more, or is it variance, whatever? So
when you scale down your play, is it because you think you might make suboptimal decisions because you're on some form of tilt, or how much on the astrology versus process side is it?
No, I mean, personally, I lowered my play a lot because, I've been getting my butt kicked. My process, I didn't really believe in completely. NFL last season wasn't great for me, so I didn't really have that much confidence going into the year. The markets have been absolutely on fire, getting torched lately. So I just realized like, hey, maybe just slow down a bit, wait for the NBA season, and things will be hopefully good again come NBA time, because NFL is not really my sport. But I did a lot of work in my process in the last, basically every single week I put tons of time. And I found this week when I finally won, like I've been super bored because I feel like I figured out the secret sauce. I have nothing to do now, waiting for Sunday again. But I'm sure come Sunday again, I'll get humbled. That's how it always works.
Are you mainly a hand builder, or are you MMEing?
No, I never hand build. You guys are wild for doing that. All MME. I'm not a
Gotcha.
coder like Brian. I'm not as smart as him, but I do some interesting different things.
There's also like, just because you were a winner last year doesn't mean you're a winner this year. Like that goes for like any gambling game. The times change, games get harder. That's another reason why you should kind of like consider scaling back if you're losing. I don't know if you guys saw that chess.com story today. I guess they think that guy actually was cheating and cheated hundreds of times. And like, I'm joking about DFS cheating, kind of like you never fucking know. And so like, you should always protect yourself. I know DFS GPPs is a different thing than like playing poker with a table of guys or heads up or something like that. It's easier to get cheated there, but like, you never know. So like scaling back or walking away from a game, it might be the right move sometimes. So I think that instinct's solid.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you about this. I remember, and I know when we were DMing too, you had splashed around in Rainmakers, got out. Like, just explain what your interaction was with Rainmakers, how that played out, at least at the start of the season.
How long do we have? I could go.
Well, we got
a
about an hour.
Can I say something honestly?
Please.
Yeah.
Can you just give me 5 sec, like the 10-second description of what Rainmakers actually is?
Oh man, 10 seconds.
Okay, DFS. You start 9 guys in real life, and you get fantasy points, and add them up. Like, what's Rainmakers?
So, disclaimer: I've been out of Rainmakers since about a week before the season started, but I was really into it, like the month leading up to it. 10-second. What it's about? It's you get 5 card. You have to make a 5-card team, and you play each week, but you can only use your single card in one event. And there's like 8 to 10 events per tier. There's 5 tiers. So I feel like I just made it way more confusing than it was initially. It's really hard to understand.
NFTs, Brian. They're
yes,
NFTs.
but they're not NFTs. It depends. It depends what which crowd he's talking to. If he's talking to the NFT crowd, it's an NFT. If he's not talking to the NFT crowd, it's not an NFT. Don't think about it that way. He definitely. My issue with the biggest issue I had was like the roadmap. You guys have done NFTs before. Like the roadmaps, they're flexible. They change a lot, but like this is DraftKings. Like they clearly did things on the fly, and it's really hard to predict. Like it's already hard enough to predict how NFL season is going to go. And on top of that, when you're trying to predict which prize pools get the most, which by tier and all that, and when they're going to release the cards, it was really difficult to do. Nearly impossible to do well. So it just took a lot of time, and I was tired of getting misled on where the money was going to go, and I just got out.
And what was when you went in on it hard, was it like you kind of projecting, hey, it looks like there might be a lot of overlay in these contests, or I assume you thought there was a really nice financial opportunity early on?
Oh, 100%. When I looked at it, I thought that the high stakes wouldn't have that many people in it. I looked at the names in it. There wasn't like the big DFS guys weren't into it, and it was confusing. And I felt like getting it. I thought it was pretty early. I wasn't super early. I was pretty early into it. So I thought I got in a good time. And, I'm not really that big of an NFT guy. I understand them, but I always know I'm always late because I don't understand any of these things. Like Rainmakers, I kind of understood. It was backed by DraftKings. Those 2 things got me interested into it. But like one of the big things that Kalish did is he promised like the 2 bottom tiers would be more about building your cards up for the top 3 tiers. But then he ended up giving like the 40% or 35% of the prize pool money to those 2 tiers, and the high stakes tiers got destroyed on their equity. So, people, they did auctions for these high stakes cards, and people were, speculating based on what Kalish was saying and previous things like, hey, we get maybe, 25% of the money to the Rainmaker tier at least. And the Rainmaker tier got like the second least amount of money, despite being like the top tier of the Rainmakers overall. I mean, it's literally called the Rainmaker tier. So people got crushed early on. A lot of not the initial guys, but the second batch of guys like myself. I had a Puka card. I think I bought for $10K for like $7K a week after I bought it because I realized like I made a big mistake. And then you had to pay 10% per transaction, which none of that money goes back to the prize pool. It's rough. But the people in it right now, I think are actually doing okay because there's so little interest that there's a lot of overlay. My understanding is a lot of overlay right now. but it just takes so much time to do it week by week. And you have to hand build all these lineups with your individual card that you can put in only one single contest. It's rough. It's really rough.
What sounds like your nightmare, Brian?
Yeah, I can't do it. Is it single entries?
So
or is it GPP or
they're GPPs. You can mass enter into each GPP into most GPPs, but you can only use your card. So like, hey, your Cooper Cup Rainmaker card, in my opinion, the best card in the game. You can only use it for one single event. You can't use it for anything else that week. So that devalues the good cards.
Can you use it 150 times in that event?
No.
Just once on one team.
One single team.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. But I don't know. Again, there's a reason why I'm out. And before this week, I was like, man, what an idiot I am. I could have grinded out my like 20% profit in that and been, hated my life, but I would make money. But now that I've made money in NFL DFS, I'm back profitable. I'm super happy I'm out again.
It is. And it goes back to that thing too of this idea of with NFTs, collectible versus utility. And right now, I haven't heard one person saying, I'm so excited to hold this card as a collectible. You're excited about it because of the prize pools and in the quote unquote, that's the utility of this NFT. And then to your point, we've seen it with Top Shot. I mean, moving the goalposts on utility and leaderboards and how you do that. Like that's a moving target. So if you have no collectible value and then you're trying to guess a roadmap that's ever changing, like that's a recipe for frustration.
It was so hard. And I put so much time into it. And because I kind of it helped me at NFL defense a little bit. Usually week one, I kind of go in blind, not knowing who's on what team and what's going to happen. So I did so much research going in, which clearly did not help going in. Week one was horrible, whatnot. I just got too much confidence. But it was really difficult. And, I made a bunch of, I guess, anti-Rainmakers posts. And I thought I was pretty fair about it. And I got definitely a lot of people mad by Kalish and whatnot. And he refused to talk to me about anything, even though I was trying to help the product. But I'm happy to be out. I really am, because especially come NBA season, I don't have the time to be setting single card lineups and trading my cards in the marketplace. It's really kind of a try hard game. It really is.
There was two things I was thinking. One was to make it less try hard. So like just optimize for me, DraftKings.
Yeah.
Just try, what I mean? Like even if it's shitty optimization, just so I could just do it and then go back to my DFS stuff or life or whatever. And then the second one was kind of what Pete was alluding to, is like that's kind of the whole thing with these cards. It was just cool, is they might increase in value 10 years from now or something, like baseball cards. And so like I tweeted out an idea, like not the greatest, but like what if you got the player's season from that year? So like you'll get a random week from that season. So like if he had 20 points in week 1 and 7 in week 2, and he was out in week 3, it rolls the weeks and you get one of those weeks. And then so you play like a classic format. And so like every card you buy this year, well, eventually you could still use them in these classic formats. And so like the better ones you have, and they'll obviously increase in value because the better this guy had the season, the better the card value. So like there'll be a direct correlation. Like that might be a horrible idea, but something that like keeps the value of these cards for a reason to buy it in this new year. Like, okay, maybe this will be worth $100,000 10 years from now or something.
Well, the funny thing is sorry, Pete, they're advertising like, hey, the cards of the future, there's gonna be prize pools still going next year for the old cards, but like it already sucks making lineups for like this year's stuff with the price pool being as large as it is. Can you imagine making it for next year for like 5% of the money? It's not worth the time for especially the high stakes guys. And one more thing about the high stakes tier, which ended up being a bizarre thing that threw me off. The high stakes tier got even worse because all of a sudden some of these NFT bros came in and they were buying cards for absurd values. So like it was definitely a seller's market. But like, again, if these cards are going for like insane cost, the money's not going back in the prize pool. So like you're essentially turning to a pay to win at the highest tier, which has no money in it. So, and these guys who came in late, these NFT guys who have no clue what they're doing, they made the tiers, they made it even more difficult because all of a sudden you can't buy high end cards without paying way too much given the prize pools. It's just, I'm glad I got out. I'm just going to keep it at that.
It's also just even if you forget some of those like micro things that you're talking about that make it hard. I mean, even just trying to pull market share of attention away from gamblers and DFS players. Like you really have to middle like the strategic element with the time necessary investing in it. And like you said, I mean, because I've heard like from some of the guys who are deep into it, you know, you hear about Bales and Smiz and these guys, like they're devoting significant time to it. Like I'm overwhelmed as a non-professional DFS player on Sundays trying to get all my lineups and stuff situated. I don't even know how much time you'd need to carve out to be really good at this.
Can you imagine you get like some late scratch, 30 minutes left, and you got to change your top lineup, and then you're like, oh, you move a guy from your second line to your top line, but like, wait, what my second line? And you're just doing like a domino effect on every single one of your lineup. It just sounds like complete hell. And I honestly, I don't know how these guys do it.
There's no Excel. There's no Excel download.
As far as I know, I don't think so. I don't think so.
And I know some people like I played the owners club, and I have no clue why their game isn't ready this year, but it was similar to what Rainmakers tried to do, but it was position team wise as opposed to player specific. And I know for some people they like the player specific thing, but it alleviated that concern because it's like, oh, Jonathan Taylor's hurt. If you still like the rushing matchup, you're getting all of the Colts running back points. Yes. And like that made it way less stressful for me too, because you're like, oh, it doesn't matter running back. Like they're still going to have a good matchup here. And then you didn't have to do all of that rearranging.
No, I completely agree. That'd make it way simpler and more like friendly. And that's what it's like. Advertises the game as like friendly. It's not like DFS where it's a lot of sharks. It's a lot of, not as smart guys and it's easier in your time, but it's definitely not. And I think if Kalish had another 3 months to think about what he's going to do, because again, he did a lot of things on the fly. And this has never been done before, so it's not easy for him either. But if he had another 3 months, I think he would do a lot better. But it was so rushed. They should have had a trial year to see how it would have gone first. But obviously, the money is what got everybody in. Without the money, maybe nobody cares. And this is definitely his baby. It intersects the DFS with the trading cards, which is something he's huge into, with NFTs. He really wants us. It needs us to be successful. But I just don't think it's done well.
Anthony says, does Petteytheft still love Wendy's potatoes? A lot of nostalgia here for your Twitch show.
I haven't had one since that Minnesota bachelor party, and judging by my day after that, and it coming out, maybe not again.
Well, Anthony wants you to bring back the Twitch show. Did you do one right after the Rainmakers thing initially a couple months ago?
Yeah. I just kind of, because I feel like it's hard to get my thoughts out on Twitter with a 240 character post. Yeah. It's more of a long-winded, explanation summary of my thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think you should be sharing alpha like that, personally, but no, I'm just giving our last guest a little shit there. That was going to happen.
I wanted one. Yeah. What were your thoughts on that? Because reading the comments, it was go ahead, Brian.
Okay. One thing before we switch topics.
Yeah.
I do like, I don't want to defend DraftKings too much, but really, like it's a brand new product. Doing things like this is hard, right? Running a business is hard. Like I still think it's kind of a cool idea, even though I didn't do it at all. And I'm sure they could do some improvements and maybe make this work. And if they would have somehow known and started this last year, that it probably would have been enormous, right? If they could have got it going last year. So I just wanted to say that, like, it sounds like there's a lot of shitting, but it's the first year of something. You know what I mean? If you were trying to play DFS in its first year on the first site, it would have probably been a pain in the fucking ass. But yeah. So
well, and just to piggyback on that too, it's the double-edged sword, right? Because, and we've seen it with Top Shot, they rush this stuff out because they know there's market interest. But when so much of it is dependent on thoughtful execution, you can really get yourself in trouble, where they might say like, hey, we should probably wait a year to get this project nailed right. But who knows what the NFT market is going. They already launched it into a bear market. So I don't know. It's but yeah, what did you think about last week? I was just going to say, like, the comments on the video were so hilarious because they'd be like, this guy's full of shit. This guy makes so much sense. I'd never seen something so polarizing.
When I was watching, it was definitely a lot more negative than positive. And obviously he's a very smart guy. And I've realized, like, anytime I talk to somebody at these live events or whatever, everybody has like degrees on math, and like they're way smarter than I am, like, especially on paper. But without, like, kind of what Brian was saying earlier, when you're gambling for a long time, you see guys like him. I'm not saying he's going to be this guy, but guys like him come and go really quickly. They have a big hit, they're on top of the world, and then the downswing hits, and you just never hear from a guy like that again. And I hope that he, stays successful and he does well. But guys like him they honestly, they come and go. They really do. And it just seems like a lot of the things he said, like you guys called him out on some things he said, and he couldn't defend himself that well. Like he was surprised you guys had like a counterpoint to a lot of things he said, especially Brian.
What do you mean? Just out of curiosity, what kind of archetype do you mean by guys like him? Like, what is the characteristics?
Like smart finance guys or smart mathematical guys. Like if you talk to like a lot of the top pros, like I feel like a lot of them have degrees in mathematics or Whistle's game theory. Like a lot of these guys are very, very smart guys. Like they're built for this on paper.
And then what is the downside of that kind of profile as a player that doesn't have the staying power?
I wouldn't say it's downside, but like again, kind of like I guess like someone like myself, like again, I've been gambling for a long time, but like even after last week's win, I feel like I'm a completely different player, even though I have a one small week sample size on NFL. Like my confidence is insanely higher than it was 2 weeks ago. Even like a guy like him, he just came off winning the PGA Championship. Like he probably thinks he's one of the best players in DFS now, just based on that. But the hardest thing is when you get in that downswing, you start doubting yourself on do I actually know what I'm doing anymore? And you start changing things around from what you've done well at. That's what I think kind of defines you, whether you can stay around or not. And we'll see if he has that.
And I would say that actually is logically consistent with his worry that his edge was being given away by other top players, right? If you're worried about that element, it's like that would check out that, hey, I'm worried about my hot streak or what I'm doing, being nullified here soon.
Yeah. So go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just he has been DMing me after the show and stuff, and he seems like a really nice guy. And who knows how? I mean, what Pet's saying too is it's just a fucking fact that guys come and go. It happens a lot. So like, it's not necessarily directed at him. He seems like he's young and sharp. And I do want to say too, like, I guarantee when I don't want to spoil the guest next week, but I guess I'm gonna. Ricky D, when he comes on, I guarantee he talks about like this like concept of this type of player. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there because I want to read his DMs. I'll get back to that in a second. He did. So he said, I think I should have described it this way. And another thing too is like Pet's got done a lot of media, with Twitch and stuff. And obviously Pete does an endless amount, and I've done a decent amount now too. It is kind of nerve wracking to be in front of, your thousands of people are going to watch the show, and
yes,
you're going to be talked about on other shows, which is what happened. So, it's not the easiest thing to do in the world. And so he said, another way I could have described it is there's 3 parts to a DFS process: inputs, magic happens, and then you have outputs. Just don't talk about what gets you from your inputs to your outputs. Essentially the magic happening part. And so like, I don't know, I think that's fair enough. Okay. Now I remember what the Ricky D thing was, is that kind of, let's say, he doesn't, I think Ricky too originally didn't want people to talk about it, and he'll probably say that again. Like, why are you guys saying this? This like you're hurting your competition. But like all the arguments we had last week, I still would like to hear, a coherent defense against. Like it's probably going to happen anyways. Like you can't like control what other people are going to do. Everyone has a different reason for doing these things that you can't like really internalize yourself. Things like that. So, he's like that. Okay. And this, the other thing Ricky said in the first time he did on the show was like, we got to stop thinking everything in life is this plus or minus EV opportunity, because this happens when you gamble for a living, especially with Poker Bros back in the day. Like you start going to like whatever, you start going to, did we lose Pete? No, he's here. You start going to like the grocery store and you're like, should I get these oranges? I think we're still alive, but even though we lost,
I saw him blink.
Yeah, I think we're probably still alive.
I saw him blink. I think he's okay.
Yeah,
I just had to refresh there.
You were going like darker. It was bizarre.
Yeah. No, one of my other cams got. Sorry, Keep going.
That's okay. But anyways, the point is what he was trying to say is Ricky D is like you start to make everything in your life these plus and minus EV decisions, even mundane things, and like it can like rot your brain is what he was trying to say. And like go outside. What was this thing like? Go outside. And so I feel like that's what he would say to Ben, our young friend. And Ben is young and just out of college too. So like I like the like capitalist mindset, obviously, like the kid's clearly not a commie, right? So like I respect that angle and I get where he's coming from with this kind of EV idea. Like, trust me, I was there when I was, 26, 27. Like you start thinking of everything in this plus or minus EV stuff and it's a little weird, frankly. But like, I mean, not he's weird, but the idea is weird. Good.
No, and I do want to reiterate the point you made about when you're making your first media appearance. It is so easy for people from the comment section. It's why people are keyboard warriors, and then you get them on the phone or you get them on camera and they tense up. It is legit nerve-wracking. And it also kind of dovetails. I haven't been looking at the Zapruder footage of this Robbie girl and if she had some device or whatever. But when I watched her response, I said, this is a person who has not been on camera a lot, who was in a dynamic where not only was she intimidated, but she felt she had to defend herself and she started tossing up a word salad because she wanted to seem smart. And to me, I was like, this is a product of someone who is getting nervous with the bright lights. And so too, with like, when we had him on last week, Ben, like to me, it was like, I was trying to sift through like underneath his nervousness and how he packaged it, finding what was his true intent. Cause that was what was interesting to me. Like, I'm like a guy being nervous on the show. Like, that's to be expected if you haven't done content. So I do think people should give him some slack on maybe his arguments weren't delivered as coherently as they could have been, but that's not because he hasn't thought them out well. It's because he hasn't done a lot of TV.
Guys, you both saying stuff kind of reminds me more of the show, what happened. My memory wasn't as clear as it is now, but I remember he was like the YouTube, you said like he was going to come out and like fire shots or something or say some stuff about the community. But then when you try to maybe not press him is not the right word, but talk to him about it, like he would kind of backtrack and like it wasn't, I think what was expected, especially, based on what the YouTube comment or the summary of what the previous stream was supposed to be. And every time he tries to like, oh, who are you talking about? He'd be very coy and not exact say what he was trying to say. It's like, you came on the show for a reason. Like, well, what are you here for? If you're just going to, kind of half-ass what you're going to say, either say it or don't go on the stream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He did pull back. Yeah. He I think he wanted to like mention some specific tweets and then changed his mind, which is, like I may, who wants that smoke? He did DM me and say, I think Nerdy Tender should be put to death. So he didn't say that. He didn't say that. But like, I really think it's that EV mindset. I think he's just got that young gambler guy. Maybe even finance guys have it too. Who knows? Where you just start looking at life and everything's this plus or minus EV decision. Yeah. And he's just like, what are you guys doing? I'm going to the store and thinking the plus minus EV decisions on oranges, and you guys are not even, you don't even care, something like that. I think that's what it is.
And that's a perfectly fair thing, especially when you're young to think that way. But like, I think we'd all be foolish to think that we got to where we are in the gambling world by just doing everything on our own. If nobody was sharing ideas and everybody kept things to themselves, I know I wouldn't be where I was. I got ideas from other people and put it to my own process. And without them, like I would be nowhere near where I am. So it's naive to think that, especially him, like obviously he's found your guys' show. Like he listens to you guys. If he found one thing from your show, it's foolish of him to think that he does everything on his own.
And I think I mentioned this analogy last week too, but using the poker world as an example and it getting solved and all these GTO crushers and all of this, like the reason people are so enthused about controversy, so enthused about the poker vlogs blowing up is because you're building out the ecosystem and bringing in new people who fall in love with the game and want to play. And then that funnels all the way up to the top. Like the same thing with DFS, like people sharing that information or even nuggets, it makes them intellectually curious as players. And they want to go subscribe to more DFS sites. They want to learn more. They want to play in more contests. They want to try different types of contests. Like to me, that is all undeniably a net good for the DFS ecosystem.
100%. 100%. If it was the same guys winning now that are winning in 2014, DFS wouldn't be a thing anymore. But it's exciting having new guys come up and people, see that, Whistles Galoo came out of nowhere a couple of years ago and maybe they can be like him. If there's no one like him, these people wouldn't want to play.
So like, if we try to put like the strongest argument for him, I would say it's something like there's a difference between DFS alpha in 2017 than there is DFS alpha in 2022, 2023. Like the alpha now could end the edge, like if they scale it right and it's done properly. So like that's a little bit of a stretch maybe, but it's a lot different than going, hey, you should stack. Hey, you should stack. Hey, you probably shouldn't dupe, and like people still argue over that, so like it's different than just like, I think this is kind of like if you wanted to like frame his argument as strong as possible. Hey guys, you might just end it all because this like you could just too many people could be doing this excellent strategy, or a business might start up, and then there's just no more DFS or no more DFS worth playing. It's just like the lottery,
I guess I'm on the other side then. Is like if everybody's doing the same strategy, there has to be a counter strategy. Like for me, example, I don't play that sim style that I know he was talking about, the nerdy tenor sim style. I don't understand it really well, so that's why I don't do it. But if everybody starts doing that style, then like my style, which is unique, should be even better if everybody's playing the same exact way. And that would be beneficial to me if everybody did that personally. I just don't think there's that much great alpha in 2022. Obviously in 2017, the ideas weren't as strong. In 2022, I don't think there's that many people where if they shared like what they do, I don't think there's that many unique strategies, I should say. Whereas
right.
like I'd be like, it'd be bad for the community. Like if for example, like Papa Gates, if him and Chipotle shared what they do, because they've been great NFL players for year after year after year. If they share what they do, yeah, maybe the NFL streets would get bad. But I don't think there's too many of that out there.
Yeah, and there is kind of the nature too. I was thinking of, you hear about these guys that exploit like the credit card mileage game. And sometimes there's like legit loopholes where like Target messes something up in your fine print and you're just like printing $100 gift cards, whatever. Target finds it and they close it off. What Ben was almost describing was like there was something like that where it's like we're just printing money and it gets closed off. Where I agree more with you, where what's kind of fun about all of this, if you aren't necessarily relying on it for your living, like from my perspective, the puzzle piece nature, the metas changing, the game strategy changing in real time is like what's fun for me. And in that, everyone's now doing this. Now we need to swing back. Like we're going to see this in season-long fantasy sports. Like zero RB is going to be a dominant strategy next year to the point everyone's going to do it. And now I'm already starting to think like it might not be the way I attack my drafts next year. And I'm like, that's going to be fun to figure that out. So it is like, how much of a printing press is this advantage versus needing to think creatively about the next exploit as an exploitative player?
Yeah, I mean, just look at kind of going back to how many guys were relevant in 2015 that were doing pretty well then are still relevant now. There's not many. And those people are probably the ones that have like a secret that they haven't shared that nobody else really understands. And those are the only guys that really have like the secrets that I think would be problematic. But then again, once those secrets are shared and, a year later, they won't be as exciting anymore. And maybe the edge will be gone on that specific thing. But then again, something else will arise.
I would say theoretic. There's like a difference between actual, like what's like actually likely to occur and theoretically. I do think theoretically though, there could be this GTO solution, kind of just like enough players where the rake's so high that you can't really beat it no matter what you do. And whatever Petteytheft does that no one knows, you somehow could theoretically put that also in this structure that awesome stochastic releases. Like in theory, I think it's definitely possible that DFS will be unbeatable. Is it likely? Probably not anytime soon, but I think it could definitely still happen. Whatever, 5%, 10% chance, maybe more.
But that goes back to like what the initial point was, like without these shows, getting new people in the game, or even like Rainmakers. I saw a lot of people I'd never seen from Rainmakers. Like you look at the badges in those contests, like there's a lot of contests with like guys with no badges. Like these guys came from somewhere. Without the new players, whatnot, sure, the game will eventually come unbeatable. But that's why I think the importance of shows like this and whatnot, they get new players into the DFS. Like without them, the game will die eventually.
Well, the other thing too, and I mean, outside of the small percentage of people that are DFS pros, this goes back to the EV thing too, right? Like if you were purely hunting EV, you should be playing more on Yahoo. You should be playing more on FanDuel, on these sites. You should, in the same way when the sports books are offering bonuses, you should be channeling those. Like, but that's not for everything. Most of the content is centered around DraftKings. It's where the chatter is. It's where it's most fun to kind of gather around and talk about the slate. And so, at least as I understand it, assuming you're not playing for a living, which I know you guys do, but for the majority of the people, like that entertainment value they're getting from that is a trade-off they're making from an EV perspective. And so that's why I think it's really interesting. Like people are like, oh, DFS is getting solved. But if you're trying to make money at DFS, like you're misguided. Go make money in some other fringe market that isn't oversaturated. We're doing this for the most part because it's fucking fun.
Yeah, and that's an important thing. Like, it's funny that you say that because I look at things way too often like EV, 100%. And then I'll talk to like average Joe. They'll ask me like, "Hey, should I play this for money?" I'm like, absolutely not. But it's a great sort of entertainment time. Like you're going to a baseball game and spending $100. Oh, you can sit at home and make $5 lineup 20 days in a row, and maybe you'll make some money back, maybe you won't, but you'll get a sweat out of it.
That's a good point, right? About the EV mindset. Is like there's other things in life. I mean, and also, by the way, I was kind of trying to steel man our friend Ben. So I don't really, I think I'm on the side of like, I want more content, right? Like I want good content, more content. Everyone who watches the show knows this. When me and Pete say like more entertaining content, like it doesn't even have to be this EV sim stuff. That's just kind of what's in right now. I wonder what show started that trend. Who knows? Who knows? But yeah, so like, but he seems like a real nice guy. And I don't think he was like, which is, I think the reason he didn't call people out because he wasn't trying to come at it that way. Well, and he realized if I did call people out, it would seem like I'm making this big stand against specific people. And I'm really just trying to like, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't give away the farm here. And whether or not that's right or not. Sorry, Pete, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and to kind of sympathize with his perspective, like you think about it, you talk about, say like chess players who are trying to get to like grandmaster, like the leap to being the best of the best, or say a mileage guy who runs a 445 mile trying to get down to 440, like going from really good to great requires so much work. And he's at what maybe you guys would disagree. It sounds like to me, he's at like a really good thing and he's trying to get to great to be able to do this full time and have it. And so when the edges are micro thin at that top of the scale, like you worry about every single thing. It's easier for me down here who's far away from that to be like, it doesn't matter. And so I get from his perspective where the margins seem so thin for him to be a professional DFS player.
Yeah, I mean, it's his fault for being young. If he was a little older, he'd be fine, but joke's on him.
He's also a handsome young guy. I noticed some people were a little jelly of him in the comments too. So maybe that's part of it.
That is, he fell into the category of like, you're wearing a cool floral polo, you got great hair, you won the $1 million, and now you're complaining about your micro edges. You're not going to earn a lot of sympathy.
Right, exactly.
He already checks all the boxes. You can't win all the money too.
I did see, we are going to get to the Tout Wars bracket here in a sec, but people were asking about the poker thing. That's obviously dominated content. I've actually I was like deep in and consuming content on it early on. I've missed this entire second wave of like, was there a device in Robbie's pants? Where are you guys at on this whole scandal, either from like a macro or specific perspective?
Brian, go ahead, Brian. You want me to go?
You go.
I've actually watched a lot of it. Okay. I used to be really good friends with Joe Ingram, playing the poker days. He used to come to my house. We hang out here and there. So I enjoy watching his show a lot. Maybe not 10 hours long. He's always been kind of a sicko, but it's crazy how many turns there have been. Initially I thought she was guilty for sure, just because of how ridiculous the hand was. Like, in no way did the hand make sense. And again, I haven't played that much live poker, but she's a very smart person. When you read about, she was like I think decently up in like a pharmaceutical company or something. Like, she's not an idiot by any means. I think people see her and like see she's like some pretty girl that's not smart. I don't think that's the case at all, which makes me lean cheat even more. But this thing has taken so many turns where like I've definitely gone back to unsure. And like the whole pants thing now with the rumbling and the shaking of the legs and whatnot, I honestly don't know what to think anymore. And if you're not watching like 8 hours a day of the show, like if you miss one day, you're behind. Like, and I missed yesterday, and I don't know where we're at now.
I too did. I think it was Ingram's first like 12-hour marathon one. And I woke up in the morning and he was streaming, still from Vegas. And he was barely coherent. But you're telling me this is can't miss TV?
It's great. And the thing about him is like he's really respected, but he's a great instigator too. Like he loves stirring the pot. And I'm a huge fan of the drama. It's wonderful.
What's your take, Brian?
I haven't watched that much, but I did. I had to. It's so hard not to at least check it out. My gut instinct was like right off the bat, first like 20 minutes or whatever after watching the hand and stuff was donk. That was my gut instinct. And by the way, just to totally agree with Pat. Like, just because like someone's not good at poker doesn't mean they're fucking dumb. Like, come on. Like, how many times do we have to not tap the tank here? So like and then all the the chair shaking evidence came in, and then like the thing on her hip. Davis made fun of us. I don't even want to talk about it, but Davis tweeted, made fun of us that we're going to talk about this. But like, I couldn't tell if that was anything or a shirt or her body or what. The shaking of the chair did seem fucking weird, but weird things happen, I guess, when people are fidgeting. I was leaning like 60-40 that she's not cheating.
I was thinking, too, just in general, like you think about how primed the poker community was for this, like the perfect storm of a bizarre hand. You could plug it a million ways. No one would ever make that call, coupled with the last big scandal was a Mike Postle with a device. It's already planted inside of our head. Yeah. Like if you remove the Mike Postle thing and then this just happens, there's no way we're even remotely at this point.
No,
not even close.
We weren't even thinking about it. Nobody knows about it. It's in our heads. You're 100% right. But man, it's so bizarre. Her timing her timing is so bizarre with all these things. Like I'm not like, again, I'm deep into it, but like, I'm not gonna say like I really fully understand because there's like 12-hour shows every day. I'm not watching 12 hours of poker content. I'm not that bored. But there's like side things too, where like the guy ripped across from her is like mouthing things to her like in the middle of random hands, and like Doug Polk came out with a thing where like maybe that's his girlfriend, but then she's married to somebody. It's like the whole entire thing is so crazy. There's so many different angles.
Yeah, and Eric mentioning like, Doug Polk and Joey Ingram, in their defense, they talk about how there's not characters in poker anymore. And like what poker now has from a content perspective is scandals. Like no one's even like, isn't there a high roller going on? Like no one even gives a shit about it. Yeah. Like, so these guys who made their hay on poker content, like this is their Super Bowl. They get one a year and they have to strike while the iron's hot. I'd be streaming 12 hours a day too if I was a poker guy and had nothing else to talk about.
There's also this kind of, I don't know if I say if it's a fallacy of, but just trying to use like rational logic for cheaters, because you could go like, okay, let's say you're cheating. Let's just say you're the person, you would be doing this cheating mechanism, whatever the hell she's accused of doing. Why would you even call with that hand? She wasn't even a favorite, right? Like she's still a dog. And you're like totally going to give yourself away. Same shit with Postle. Some of the things he was doing were like, why not just give away a couple of these hands so you don't look so fucking obvious? Yeah. Right. Well, and so like, I don't know if it's a fallacy. Maybe they're just so greedy that these cheaters will always get caught. Clearly they won't always get caught though. Like I'm sure there's some that are just never gotten caught, but it's just interesting to think about like, why would you do that?
And that goes back to we were just saying the whole reason everyone is primed for this was because of the Postle. Like, don't you think I don't want to run the same scheme here twice, knowing that everyone is so on heightened alert? And then if you were running that scheme, wouldn't you pick a less obvious spot than one of the worst calls of all time?
But I can go the other way though. And that's the beauty of this. Like to cheat in that kind of spot, you had that, I think you had such a big ego. Like I think you can get away with that. And for her, like, maybe she picked the spot, but like to call a jack high against arguably the best, especially televised cash game player currently right now with Garrett. And to like, she probably thought like, if she's not the greatest poker, she might have thought like she looked like a god, like, oh, like I have blockers and whatnot. Like, look how smart I am. Like, I could make an argument that she thought she was really smart by making that call if she knew what the cards were.
Also, I mean, Steve had given us the Z's here. Look, if these guys could do 12-hour live streams, Lols could do a fucking 10-minute segment on this. Relax.
Wasn't like wouldn't you like never in any circumstances be in with that hand pre-flop? Like, I can't remember, right?
I mean, if you're playing God, then you can get away with doing whatever you want. Okay. Right?
Fair enough.
The other thing, playing it too, again, on the skeptical cheating side, you also have to think Garrett has just a massive profile in this game. Like, he is an institution in that game, and his style of play is widely known. He's hyper aggressive. He's a bully in pots. Like, don't you think her coaches and people are telling her like, hey, don't let this guy push you around. He likes to try to get you off hands. And she's saying to herself, this is where I make a stand. Like, I could see that rhetoric being, tossing around in her head as well.
I think that is one of the biggest things that's being said, like, and especially like the female versus guy thing, like the female's getting ran over and over, and she makes a stand, like, she's seen as weak, and I get that. Maybe she felt that way. Like, kind of going the other way with Garrett, like, it's like the opposite of what Ben was thinking. Like, he is 100%, like, he had a great gold mine in that Hustlers thing. And like, I don't know how long he's got to take off and whatnot. And now he looks like the villain because he took the money. Like, he ruined his great spot for at least a little while because he chose to make a stand here against the cheating. He could have definitely brushed that off and like said something after the show and went on, not made a big deal out of it. But it's crazy how it's just crazy how big the things turn into.
That's actually a good point. What do you think? Because about him being in that game, him getting invites, I assume, to lots of juicy other private games, just as an action player that's likable. I mean, obviously it's a lot of money, right? 6 figures that in that hand.
No,
but relative to his expected value of nothing. Those other games, right?
I think 130K is nothing for him. Like, he has the best reputation ever. Like, never cheated, has been the perfect. He'll say nice hand after everything. I think he is the big dog in these private games. I think he is the one who controls a lot of the invites. I think that's where her concern came from and why she gave some money up, because I think she was concerned if she was on the wrong side of Garrett, she would never be invited to another private game that Garrett was affiliated with, which is a lot of these games is what my understanding is. And I think that was a lot of her concern. But like, I'm not saying he threw away his reputation, but like, he has a lot of people that are anti-Garrett now, whereas before, like, beyond him being like a crusher and whatnot, there was not a single thing you could say bad about him. But because he took that money from her, he's got a lot more enemies. And like, anybody who's looking for a chance to take a dig at him found it.
Wait. We could also, he was one of the worst Survivor contestants of all time too. So we are able to say bad things about Garrett even before this.
I didn't even know he was on that show.
He got voted out right away. I think it was either the first or second episode, and he just really misplayed a social angle there. And I can't even remember the particulars of it, but he just came in way too heavy, I think, trying to out someone else. And then they're like, actually, buddy, we're sending you home.
We need more DFS guys on shows.
Yeah.
What happened to I don't know what the show was called, the pilot of the Whistles Woo, that show.
Let's Go.
Oh. Let's Go. Where did that go?
Yeah. I don't know.
Surprisingly, they haven't done any more. It's
unfortunate.
You gotta go to season 2. New cast.
What about Randone? You're not going back and watching old episodes of The Bachelor? That's not doing it for you, Petty?
Randone did not. I've actually never watched The Bachelor. I watched one season because I had a buddy on it, but other than that, I've never watched The Bachelor once. Thank God.
Let's see. I would do Survivor. I think that would be fun. Dan Bach wants me to apply to Survivor too.
I think you'd be good at it. I applied to what's the Wipeout show?
Oh, really?
I applied to that in my poker days, and I got a call back about 2 years ago asking if I still wanted to be a part of it, and I just like, absolutely not. I'm too old for this now. I'm gonna hurt myself.
What did you put as your profession, or like how did you present yourself in the application?
It was like when I was 21, so I had to do something about poker. And clearly it was not exciting enough back then, but somehow in the last 3 years I became more exciting, or maybe they ran out of people, probably more likely.
Since we only have a little bit more time here, Brian, we do have to take a look at this highly controversial tout bracket. I just realized, Brian, initially, I'll admit, I thought this was going to be a one-off tweet bit. I didn't realize you were going to commit to running the polls. And now it's seeing the, dare I say, slow release of these polls. Is this going to be like a 2-month thing, Brian?
It's really milking it.
Like we're one down over like a week.
Or it's a year thing. Next year we'll have new talents and it's just redo it again.
It was a one-off tweet that turned into me milking it for bid equity. And commit is a strong word. There's a strong possibility this may never end. I may never release another one.
There was some very funny replies in that one. JMac getting set up to say he doesn't know Siege was really good.
Yeah.
What is the metric? What are we voting on? I understand it's a tower. What are we voting on? Who's the best player? Who's the best tout? What's
any metric you deem fit?
There's no way Brian's going to define it for you. This is the brilliance of this bracket and the selection committee here.
Yeah. So however you want. So like in the Osmo one, for me personally, I'm gonna decide on their MMA abilities.
Their personal MMA or their DFS
That's
MMA?
my personal metric for that matchup.
I think
you can do whatever you want.
Isn't he an athlete? Doesn't he play like tennis or something?
Osmo, I think he's just more of a street fighter.
I've played basketball with Osmo before. I think Leviton's. I think I like Leviton there.
I guess what I'm more confused about, I'm not confused at all by the metric of how you determine these. I mean, to me, it's fairly obvious. It's more like the inclusion of some people and the exclusion of others. I mean, It did seem like there were some quote unquote more relevant touts that could have snuck in here over some of those of yesteryear.
Yeah. Well, there was a selection committee convened and they want to remain anonymous. So I can't help you.
There's a lot of interesting little things in this bracket, by the way. Like, for example, Giant Squid. Everybody has like a 3 or 2 letter thing. Giant Squid has a Saber Space Sim. That's genius. And then
Shit My Money
gets nothing.
No sight.
And then Ethan Gate. I forgot about Ethan. Thanks for bringing me back to that.
Ethan Gate on Team Ethan Gate.
Yeah. I feel like he should have been Team DK. But that brought me back. I honestly forgot about that.
I put Condi on our team, Pete.
I did notice that. Is that your kind of way of inviting him on the show?
No, we should. I saw his. I don't follow him, so I went to look, and he's hidden all his tweets. But I was gonna say, like, if we ever did a real tout wars, like I was gonna say, like, well, Pet and Ricky D should be on lulls because they don't have a tout team and they come on the show all the time. And because they're gonna have like Austin's gonna have like Stochastic is gonna have like 4 guys, ETR is gonna have like 4 guys. If it ever really went down, like we need the same amount of guys.
I will say, I feel like Chess is okay in the spirit of this bracket. Like, really needs to be on this.
That would have been a good one. Yeah.
I forgot, what was the site called? The one that he's a part of? Didn't he have a training site or something? Or
yeah.
Oh, I can't
remember.
He
It was coaching. Maybe it was just coaching.
Yeah, I think so.
And we get some
chess coaching.
Yeah. Also, leaving Blender out, I think was a misstep too, Brian.
That was tough.
Oh, I could have put him in. Yeah. So here's I'm sorry. The selection committee could have put him in. I didn't pick this, but I did hear some inside baseball. I wanted to do Squirrel Patrol for that, like the time everyone called him out for charging 195% vig or whatever on his. And I couldn't remember who was his biggest antagonist in that thread, so I just put Siege question marks.
You should have put him for State Kings then, not Road Riders.
And I ran out of slots, and I'm like, I'm not going to 32. I mean, the selection committee told me.
You could have gone 24.
This is what happened. Brian, you could have legit made a full 64 team bracket, but you got so excited for this bit that the selection committee rushed this out.
They probably might have.
New idea. The whole bracket's not out yet. You released one side of the bracket. This is like 16. This is one region.
Good point.
There's a lot more to come.
Yeah. Who knows? I mean,
what do you think? So you the selection committee pitted you against Davis Maddock. You guys frequently appear on the Take Cast together. What's the thought there with that 8-9 seed?
Who knows what they were thinking, but I was, could have been, a little layup for old Bric 75.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, "This is DFS ability. That's not very fair." The committee was very kind to you somehow.
With as much as chalk is hitting this year in DFS, I mean, I think we're headed toward a big T versus hoop final. Like, I just think we're just destined for it.
Top 2 seeds.
You know, those RPS guys, you know, they've been crushing.
Do you think that maybe when they get to the championship, that they decide not even to compete against each other and they just let the clock tick out so they could dupe each other in getting first, just co first? I think that might be what happened.
I think they'd be perfectly happy winning. And, you know, they might even give it to some of their followers to have them join them with the 60-man train.
Silva versus J-Mac is probably my favorite, just of imagining like a shit talking campaign for both of them in the lead up of that matchup would just be absolute gold.
It's two very different mindsets. J-Mac is like the more intuition based mindset, or Silva is actually, no, Silva's very intuitive.
I was going to say, where
yeah,
you
no, I take it back. I thought I'm thinking ETR in general. ETR in general is not, you know, not really an intuitive site like RPS where you get a playbook or whatever. No, I take that back. That's a very weird matchup.
So do we have some breaking results here?
Yeah, we got some live results on that one, actually.
Wow. Are all precincts reporting? It looks like they have.
No, they're not. There's 22 hours left.
Oh, I voted in this one already.
Who did you?
I took the underdog.
You took the underdog? You took J-Mac?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what was your metric?
Well, my metric was on Sunday, Silva was digging through my old tweets to like one that I had making fun of Damian Pierce. And so I was pissed off at Silva and decided to vote for J-Mac.
You know what? I was thinking with Siege, he could have retweeted. He could have won that yesterday if he would have just commented or said anything. But he took the L. He took the upset loss. Didn't even care.
Imagine if he would have had part of his crew, 30K plus Twitter follower crew that congregates at the Circus Swim Club, all weaponize their followers to vote. I mean, he would have ran away with it in a landslide.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I like that way of looking at things. Like if you have a big following and you're not winning first round, like you have a big following.
So then we're gonna have Silva. I assume my money's gonna run away. I can't imagine Giant Squid being able to rock.
No, there's a lot of beep boop kind of robot kind of guys that might come out of the woodwork to help him out, or maybe he builds a bot of Twitter guys that just votes for himself.
That could be scary. Brian, are you worried about the integrity of this bracket essentially being solved by bots and sims?
Holy shit! I did not think about that. That could happen. We're gonna have to have chess.com investigate this one too.
Oh my goodness!
And then you build content for a month based on the cheating scandal. You got it made. You thought of this more than people think, I believe.
Who wins Kandia Ethan Gate?
I was just gonna say none of those guys are tweeting.
It's gotta be a landslide, right?
Kandia?
It's gotta be Kandia.
Yeah,
Kandia.
Because just the name Kandia, he might go further than people think. That's a sleeper right there. People see Kandia, they love, or they hate the name Kandia because he's a bully back in the day.
I think the two big ones are Osimo Levitan and Pete Hoop.
Well, but Petty just said that Kandia is going to go on a run, so he clearly thinks the Pete Hoop side of this bracket is weak.
I could see a run. I could see a run. I think
I could see a run.
The Pete Hoop one. I think Pete Hoop, Osimo Levitan are the ones that I'm most interested in seeing.
Yeah, Osimo Levitan. I don't even know if some of these guys. Like there's been times where you've seen them interact with each other. I don't know if I've ever seen Osimo and Levitan interact with each other.
You saying there might be a beef there?
I'm saying it could be highly combustible, this situation. Either they're just don't want to have anything to do with each other. I don't know. There's something there that feels like sparks could fly.
I think it's very interesting. I don't know if the ETR guys are taking this serious enough. I haven't really heard much from them about this bracket and how important it is to win a tower.
My thing with the matchup with Hoop is I feel like he has an advantage because he's been watching my content and knows a lot about me, and I haven't watched a second of his. And so I feel like, he's just going to be way more deceptive. He just has game planned way more than I have.
I don't know about that because these RPS guys, I don't think anything is deceptive about them. I think they're very, very loud. They love to explain the strategies to everybody. I think his strategy will come out if he's taking it seriously.
Okay.
And one of those shows.
I'm going to say Pete wins because Hoop's going to be too cool for school. and now talk about it, mention it, retweet it, comment on it. And that gives Pete a huge edge because, I mean, obviously we're doing content on it right now. I think Pete sails through there. Candia Pete's going to be a matchup. Probably Pete, you probably win that one too. It looks like people love Silva. Silva ship. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
I find that one interesting. But I guess maybe people just don't like J-Mac. It might be look the other way though.
Didn't Candia, wasn't one of his last, for some reason in my head, I just have this picture of Candia posting a selfie of him like shirtless. And when he was like going through like a fitness kick, do you guys remember that?
I do remember that actually. I do. Yes. No, I do.
And I'm just worried, like I might have to get into really good shape and just to compete on this because he's probably cornered a demographic that I don't have access to right now with Candia already having that photo out there.
Okay.
It's something to consider.
Is this only Pete
I mean, if he
out?
does screenshot a Millie Maker, then you're going to probably have to come back with something spicy.
Oh no, I've been running basically ever since kind of like this Millie Maker stuff. I've decided I've just been running like the cash optimal in the Millie Maker every showdown slate just so I can get that title of a Millie Maker winner.
I tell you, as somebody who's won a Millie Maker in NBA that was split so many ways, I can't remember how many ways it split. It's not as exciting as it's been said recently. That dude being a Millie, it's not that exciting.
I mean, I beg to differ, man. Winners are winners, bud. Brian, what can we maybe pick up the pace with this polling? Or are you going to milk this for about 6 months?
Well, I kind of wanted to do the fun ones by themselves, but maybe,
Okay.
yeah, maybe I should pick up the pace. What should I do? How should I just do them all in one thread? Or should
No. I didn't mean to influence you. I liked the how slow this pace was. I think it really enhances the bit.
I'll try to get them all in before next show. How about that?
Okay.
No chance.
There's no chance.
Oh, come on. Maybe we can.
I think what you need to do is expand the scope of the project and build out 4 different regions.
I like that idea.
We'll see how this one goes.
There's a lot of sites out there. There's a lot of sites, but you put a lot of heavy hitters in one region is the problem. But if you brought Ethan Gate out of nowhere, you can put some guys from the grave back out there.
No, what do they call it? It's not Group of Death. That's World Cup. What do they call the toughest region normally? Is there a name for it? Is it Group of Death?
No, Group of Death's definitely World Cup.
Yeah.
It's
There
just
you
like
go.
all the dead tots in one region. We just don't hear anymore. I like that idea.
You know what I will say, Brian? I think you have a little bit of a runway because Ricky D, I don't want to oversell it, but he promised dropping some bombs next week. So maybe that will buy you at least another couple weeks of relevance of this tout bracket.
Okay. I'm looking forward to it.
We need big stuff from Ricky D after the Ben show. I need more. And if you need someone to instigate, let me know.
It sounds like Ricky D is ready to instigate. So you guys can look forward to that next week. Petty, people early on clamoring for more Twitch streams. Anything else coming from you on your end?
I thought about doing a basketball site this year because everybody, that's the thing, is making your own tout site. But I don't think there's enough interest to make it worth it for me.
That's why you didn't end up on the tout bracket. If you would have committed to making the tout site, Brian would have worked you into his top 64.
Where would I have been?
Well, you don't. Well, you're not a tout, so I don't know where I can put you.
Good point.
I would have tried. I mean, I don't pick these things, but the selection committee probably would have put you wherever was the funniest that he could think of scenario. So I don't know what that would have been, but who do you have a beef with? Do you have a beef with anyone?
I got a lot of beefs.
Kalish? Do we do Kalish versus?
That would be an interesting one.
Oh yeah, why even DFS player? I'm gonna throw in this Roby poker.
That would be smart because I would post about it on my Twitter, and then I would tag Kalish, and he might post it on the DraftKings Twitter. Hey, vote for me. You might get a whole DraftKings on your side.
Next bracket's not gonna be all DFS players. That's
you need to expand. You need to expand your reach.
Yeah. This is gonna be big. Brian, anything else on your radar here before we power this down?
No, I don't think so. Updated the app a little bit. There's you could overlay like ETR's projections right on DraftKings props.
There you go.
Pretty cool. If you ETR sub, and you could put anyone else's on there too if you want.
Yeah, well, you are going to have to pick your side in this tribalistic economy of the DFS world now. So
that's true.
Choose your fighter. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Come hang out in the Lols channel in the Discord, a very fun place in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. I have that link down below. Thank you to Petteytheft for swinging by. Ricky D dropping bombs next week. We'll see you then.